Greetings, my dear friend. I am very happy that you are watching my video, and I will be even happier if you subscribe to my channel. This will make me even happier. Let's get started. The quiet that blankets the house these days carries the weight of years gone by. Years filled with voices, footsteps, laughter, and the rhythmic pulse of family life that once gave this place its heartbeat. Cathys out right now, running errands. She said she was making a quick trip for groceries, but I wouldn't be surprised if she came home with some throw pillows or a new picture frame. That's just who she is. Thoughtful, always finding little ways to brighten our lives. We've been married 24 years. Next month marks 25, a whole quarter of a century. Somehow that number feels heavier than I anticipated. It seems like only yesterday I was fumbling with a ring box in my coat pocket, nervously planning how to ask her to marry me without tripping over my words. Now here we are, our two kids grown, living away from home. The house feels oversized suddenly, hollow. Jack is in his final year at college, and Emily's halfway through her second. Their absence is jarring. The background noise that once filled this place is gone. No more Jack's music thundering through the walls, no more heated debates between Emily and Cathys about curfew rules. Their friends aren't swinging by anymore, no laughter trailing down the hall. It's just Cathys and me now, and on mornings like this, it's only me. I finally dragged myself out of bed, knowing Cathys would make some snide comment if she found me still lounging at this hour. I reached for the bottle of vitamins on the nightstand, twisted off the cap, and tried to shake one out. But instead of landing in my palm, the pill bounced, ricocheted off the wood, and vanished beneath the bed. With a grunt and a mutter, I crouched down to retrieve it. Under there, the shadows seemed thicker than I expected, and the air held the scent of long-ignored corners. My hand brushed through layers of dust and landed on a sock, one of Jack's, left behind during his last visit probably. But then I felt something unfamiliar, crinkly, light, out of place. When I pulled it out, my stomach dropped. It was a condom wrapper. I sat motionless, staring at it as though it had materialized from another dimension. At first, I was just stunned, confused. No one had been here. No guests, no events, nothing unusual, just Cathys and me going through our routines. And then, like a cold wave crashing in, it hit me. I had a vasectomy after Emily was born. That was a mutual decision, final and agreed upon. No room for second guesses. So what was a condom wrapper doing under our bed? That thought, the one I didn't want to acknowledge, slid in, sharp and invasive. Was Cathys cheating on me? A flash of anger rose up, hot and fast, but I pushed it down. Bursting out with accusations the moment she walked through the door wouldn't do any good. She could deny it, twist it around, make it worse. This one wrapper wasn't enough. I needed facts, something concrete. I got dressed, jeans, a plain shirt, grabbed my car keys. The walls around me felt tighter than usual, every creak in the floorboard suspicious. I needed air, and I needed someone I could trust. Davey Jones. Not the one from pirate lore. This Davey was a Navy vet turned private eye. We've been close since we were kids, and he earned the nickname during his service years. It stuck, and so did his knack for uncovering the truth. His office was the same as always, papers in semi-orderly chaos, blinds half closed against the sun. He was leaning back in his chair, sipping coffee from a mug that had definitely seen better days. When he saw me, he grinned and stood up to greet me. "Well, look who it is. Ben Miller," he said, motioning for me to sit. "What's on your mind?" For a moment, I just sat there, struggling to find the right words. Then I told him everything. The wrapper, the unease, the suspicion gnawing at me. Davey listened without interrupting, just nodding here and there, his face unreadable. When I was done, he leaned back and scratched at the stubble on his chin. "All right, Ben, I'll look into it. Give me a week to dig around. But listen, you need to prepare yourself. If it turns out your instincts are right..." He didn't need to finish. I already felt the weight of what he was about to say. "You should talk to a lawyer," he added. Start thinking about what this could mean. Your money, your life going forward. Don't wait until you're blindsided. The thought of divorce made my insides churn, but I knew he was right. Yeah, I said quietly. I'll do that. He got up and placed a solid hand on my shoulder. We'll figure this out, one way or another. I gave him a nod, thanked him, and left. Condom wrapper still tucked in my pocket, a reminder of everything that had just shifted. Something silent and small, but heavy enough to change everything. 2 hours had passed before I found myself across the desk from Butch Reed. He lounged back in a dark leather chair, eyes sharp and calculating, assessing me like a hunter sizing up his prey. Butch wasn't just the most sought-after divorce lawyer in town. He had earned his place with cold precision and an unflinching honesty that cut deeper than most could handle. If I was going to get the unvarnished truth, it would come from him. I explained everything, laying it out piece by piece while he jotted down notes with calm efficiency. When he finally met my gaze, the look on his face was grim. "Ben," he said flatly, "if things play out the way you're expecting, you're looking at a clean split. Half of everything. Savings, property, the house. California doesn't play favorites. It's community property. That means 50-50. No wiggle room." It landed like a punch to the gut. Half of our life, everything Cathys and I had poured ourselves into, suddenly at risk. I felt a wave of nausea, but beneath it all, one truth burned clear. I could walk away from the house, the bank accounts, even the years we'd spent together. But I couldn't stay married to someone who'd betrayed me. Butch must have sensed my resolve because he leaned forward, voice dropping in tone. "If you're serious about this," he warned, "you have to play it cool. Don't say anything. Don't give her the slightest hint. The minute she suspects, she'll get herself a lawyer. And once that happens, it's war." I nodded slowly, letting his words settle in. "I'll handle it," I replied. By the time I left his office, my mind felt like it had been through a blender. But underneath the exhaustion, there was clarity. I had to stay calm, no matter how much it tore me up inside. When I got home, Cathys was in the kitchen, nonchalantly preparing dinner, a knife moving through vegetables like nothing in the world had changed. She glanced up and smiled, as if everything between us was just as it had always been. My chest ached, but I forced a smile in return. "I've got a work trip tomorrow," I said, leaning casually on the counter. "I'll be out the whole week." Later, as she crawled into bed beside me, her fingers brushed against my skin, her body inching closer with familiar warmth. "Come here," she murmured, her voice low and inviting. But I didn't move. "I'm wiped out," I muttered, staring into the dark. She lingered for a moment, then turned away with a sigh, her back facing me. I lay there, eyes locked on the ceiling, thoughts churning. Was I overreacting? Could the condom wrapper I found not be hers? Jack had been staying in our bedroom for a couple of nights while his was being painted. Was it possible it fell out of his stuff? Or was I just grasping at straws, hoping for an explanation that didn't exist, trying to rationalize something that was, by nature, irrational? But somewhere deep inside, I knew. I couldn't deny it any longer. I couldn't pretend. Whatever the truth was, I had to confront it. At dawn, I quietly got out of bed, packed a small overnight bag, and called a cab. Cathys didn't stir, her steady breathing the only sound in the room. I closed the door behind me without a sound. As the taxi pulled away, the city gradually gave way to open roads and scattered buildings. The place I chose wasn't much. Cheap, low profile, unremarkable. Just what I needed, ideal. I checked in, tossed my bag on the bed, and sat in silence, staring at the peeling wallpaper as the day wore on. By early evening, my phone buzzed. It was Davey. "She just left the house," he said, his voice taut with tension. "She checked into a motel." My stomach flipped. "Which one?" I asked. He hesitated a beat. "The same one you're in." I froze, my heartbeat hammering in my chest. The silence in that room felt suffocating. A second call came soon after. Davey's voice was steady, but firm. "She's in the room right next door. Listen, Ben, don't go over there. Not now. You don't want to blow this up. Just walk away. Breathe. This isn't the place." But I wasn't listening. "No, Davey," I said, jaw tight. "I need answers. I need to hear it from her." He exhaled sharply on the other end. "Fine. Just do one thing. Don't lose control. Promise me that." I gave a non-committal grunt and ended the call, my hand trembling as I set the phone down. The minutes dragged, each one longer than the last, until I heard it. Voices, muffled through the thin walls, at first indistinct, but I could tell one was Cathys, the other a man's, unfamiliar and low. Then the tone shifted, the sounds changed. I knew what was happening. I could hear her voice, her movements. She was unmistakable, and now she was just feet away, with someone else. My stomach clenched as I heard him speak, his voice laced with contempt. "Why are you still with that guy?" he sneered. "He's a joke. He doesn't give you what you need, does he?" And then came Cathys' reply, quiet, breathless, and all too real. "No. He doesn't do it for me anymore," she said, her words cutting through me like shards of broken glass. "You're the only one who's made me feel something real in years. He's just old now." Her laugh followed, cold, mocking, laced with venom. "Then why stay with him?" I demanded. Her answer came sharp and unapologetic. "Because someone has to pay the bills," she snapped. "Now shut up and do what you came here to do." I stayed motionless at the edge of the bed, every nerve in my body tense. My chest felt tight, like drawing breath took conscious effort. From the next room, the sounds of laughter drifted in, biting and bitter, eroding what little composure I had left. I couldn't stand it anymore. I rose to my feet, fists clenched, prepared to storm in and bring this farce to an end. But before I could act, the door creaked open. Davey stepped inside, his expression hard as granite. He grabbed my arm, halting me. "Don't do it," he said, voice firm and quiet. "Let me go," I hissed, yanking against his hold, but he only tightened his grip. "Ben, you need to hear me out," he said with that calm, unshakable tone of his. "The window's been open. My camera's been recording everything. We've got it all on tape. You bust in there now and you'll be the one in handcuffs. That ruins your chances of getting out clean." I was breathing fast, my eyes burning with fury. "I don't give a damn about a clean divorce," I growled. "I want her to pay." Davey stood his ground, unwavering. "You will," he said evenly, "but not like this. If you lose it now, everything you've worked for is gone." I tried to shake him off, my rage boiling over, but his grip didn't break, and his words cut through my fury like a cold blade. Slowly, the heat drained from me, replaced by a grief so crushing I nearly buckled. I sank back down onto the bed, burying my face in my hands. I felt like I had been gutted, stripped bare, beaten. The woman I had loved for over 2 decades was just on the other side of that wall, tearing our life apart like it meant nothing. After a long, bitter silence, I stood again. My jaw clenched tight. My hands still trembled. "She's going to pay for this," I said. My voice was calm and low, but it burned like acid in my throat. "She might walk away with the house, even half of everything I built. But I'd make sure she paid for every deception, every time she smiled while stabbing me in the back." After Davey left, I sat alone in that dim motel room, my thoughts spinning like a hurricane. It felt like the weight of the world had pinned me down. The plan was simple. Disappear for 3 days while Davey tracked her every move. That was our agreement. But the isolation, knowing what she was up to, chewed at my insides like something rotten. By the time Davey called that night, I was already pacing the room, my fists clenching and unclenching with every step. "They just left the motel," Davey reported, voice steady and measured, trying to anchor me. "The guy's name is Roger Smith. Works with her." The name meant nothing, but it didn't need to. The fact that he was a colleague, that she'd spent all those so-called late nights at the office with him, hit like a sledgehammer. "She's been involved with him for a while," Davey continued. "I'll keep tailing them. Just sit tight. Don't make a move until we've got every piece." I barely managed a grunt before ending the call. The hours that followed stretched endlessly. Every minute felt like an eternity. Knowing where she was and who she was with was a kind of torment I wouldn't wish on anyone. The next day, Davey checked in again. His voice remained composed, but his message landed like blows. "She's living with him now. Goes straight to his place after work. Every night. I've got enough footage to bury her." I didn't say a word, just clutched the phone until my fingers went numb. "And yes," Davey added carefully, "they're sleeping together. Every night. At his place." Before I returned home, I met with Davey and Butch in a rented office that smelled faintly of stale coffee. The blinds were drawn, the light dull and tired. Butch leaned back in his chair, fingers pressed together in thought, while Davey stood near the window, arms crossed. "We stick to the plan," Butch said firmly. "Go home. Pretend everything's fine. Don't let her sense anything's wrong. We've got more than enough already, but if we keep this up, your case only gets stronger." Davey gave a slight nod. "Just keep playing it cool, Ben. No blow-ups, no mistakes. Let her think she's still got the upper hand. I'll keep surveillance in case she makes a wrong move." I nodded, though my insides churned. "I understand," I said, my voice steady even though my heart felt like it was splitting apart. Butch leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Good, because if you blow your lid, you lose every advantage you've got. Remember that every second you're under that roof." I drew in a long breath and gave a resolute nod. We reviewed the strategy one last time before I headed out. The weight of what was to come sat heavily on my chest, but my resolve didn't waver. As I walked through the front door of the house, Cathys was already bustling in the kitchen. Her face lit up as soon as she saw me. "You're back," she said warmly, stepping toward me like she was about to hug me. I instinctively took a step back, raising a hand to stop her. "Wait," I said quickly. "There's a chance I've been around someone with COVID. Someone at work tested positive and I'm not feeling quite right. I'd rather not risk it." Her cheerful expression dropped into concern. "Oh no! Are you feeling sick? What symptoms do you have?" "Just a bit of a sore throat," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "But I think it's smart to play it safe. I'll stay in the guest room for a few nights." She nodded with clear worry in her eyes. "Absolutely. Let me know if you need anything. Tea, medicine, dinner. I'm here." I forced a polite smile. "I appreciate it. I've got everything under control." She lingered for a moment, then asked, "Do you think we should delay the anniversary celebration? It's only a couple weeks away." I shook my head, keeping my features steady. "No need. I'll be fine in a few days. I can actually use the downtime to sort out more of the planning." Her expression softened, and she gave me a gentle smile. "That's really sweet of you." I nodded slightly, maintaining my facade. Inside, though, I was anything but calm. The quiet of the guest room was only broken when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I grabbed it without needing to check who was calling. Davey's voice came through the line, low and direct. "She left the office at lunch," he said. "She's over at Roger's again. Same behavior as before." I clenched my jaw but stayed silent. "I sent everything," he continued. "Pictures, videos, check your inbox." I looked at the phone, then opened the email. There it was. Proof. Cathys walking into Roger's house. The images that followed made my stomach churn. I watched without a word, the sick feeling growing deeper. My grip on the phone tightened, rage burning just beneath the surface. Eventually, I spoke. "If I wasn't her husband," I said flatly, "this might almost be entertaining. But right now, she makes me sick." There was a beat of silence before Davey replied, calm and steady. "I know this is hell, Ben, but you're nearly through it." The next 7 days dragged on endlessly, each one slower than the last. I stayed locked away in that room, biding my time. Cathys went about her days as usual, unaware of the storm building behind the door. When the isolation period ended, I stepped back into the rhythm of daily life, masking every emotion. I played my part. Cathys, smiling and affectionate, seemed to think everything was fine again. When she leaned in one evening, I subtly pulled away. "I'm still feeling a bit off," I said quietly. "I don't have much energy tonight." Her eyes filled with concern. "That's okay. You've been under the weather. Just take it easy." "I will," I replied. "But something feels wrong. I'm going to get a full STD panel done tomorrow, just to be sure." The clinic visit was brief. I kept my mind from spiraling, but deep down I knew I needed to face the truth. Answers were necessary before moving forward. When I got home, I sat down and began sending out the anniversary invitations to family, friends, everyone we knew. The event was happening, and it would look flawless on the outside. That afternoon, the phone rang. It was the kids, calling to say they'd be there. For a fleeting moment, their voices brought warmth, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Later that night, Cathys approached with an uncharacteristic softness. "I love you, Ben," she said, her tone tender. "I'm so grateful to have you in my life." I gave her a faint, hollow smile, the same one I'd perfected over the past week. "I know," I said simply. The day finally came. Our anniversary party. The house was alive with activity, guests laughing, conversations weaving through the rooms, well wishes flowing from every direction. People kept telling me how lucky I was, how beautiful our marriage seemed. Cathys radiated joy, putting on the warm, polished smile she always used at gatherings. Among the crowd were her colleagues, including Roger. He brought his wife. I couldn't help but notice how he and Cathys exchanged subtle, knowing glances. She clung closer to me than usual, while he pretended to mingle nearby. No one from my office showed. I'd thought about inviting them, but decided against it. That world didn't belong at this performance. Cathys took notice. "None of your co-workers came?" she asked, eyebrows raised in curiosity. "There was a big meeting today," I said smoothly, offering no more detail than necessary. It wasn't a lie, just a curated slice of the truth. I didn't actually need any of my colleagues to be there, but pretending I did made everything simpler. Cathys' parents showed up shortly after things got underway, overflowing with cheerful greetings and hollow praise. I met them with practiced politeness, my thanks as empty as my enthusiasm. Beneath the surface, I was a storm barely contained. They had no idea what I knew. They couldn't see the truth I carried beneath my smile. Cathys clung to my side all evening, the perfect image of a blissful wife. Her face never betrayed a single crack in the illusion, her charm as relentless as it was convincing. She worked the room like an actress on opening night, radiating the glow of a woman living a fairy tale. But behind my eyes, the truth pulsed like a warning siren, and I didn't know how much longer I could stay silent. The space buzzed with laughter and cheerful chatter, every detail carefully manicured to suggest joy. It all felt artificial, like a stage set too perfectly dressed. I reminded myself this wasn't real, just the quiet before the storm I had been engineering. Then I spotted them, Davey and Butch, making their way in. My heartbeat quickened. This was the cue I had been waiting for. Everything had been orchestrated for this one moment. The illusion was about to shatter. I had spent weeks assembling every detail with surgical precision. Now it was time to expose it all. I turned toward Cathys, gently asking her to release my arm. Her grip, once comforting, now symbolized everything I had grown to resent. She let go without resistance, still smiling, still unaware of what I was about to do. I walked toward the projection screen we had prepared for the evening. As I stepped into position, the lights dimmed and attention turned to me. My pulse thudded in my ears, but I kept my voice even. I took the microphone in hand and addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for joining us tonight," I began, my tone smooth despite the turmoil inside. "It means a great deal to Cathys and me." Nods and murmurs rippled through the audience. "Cathys and I have shared 24 years and 6 months of marriage," I continued. Cathys chimed in gently, correcting me. "It's been 25 years. I met her gaze and smiled with subtle weight. "I'll get to that, darling." I turned to Davey, who now held a large, elegantly wrapped frame. "Davey, please give our gift to my wife." Davey approached with the package. Cathys, ever radiant, met him near her parents. She was utterly unaware of what lay ahead. Her father reached out to help unwrap the present, and I felt the air tighten with suspense. Each second dragged. The moment Cathys' eyes landed on the image, her face contorted with disbelief. I had imagined her reaction many times, but seeing it unfold in real time still hit hard. The photo revealed Cathys and Roger together in bed, unmistakably close. Her shriek broke the spell of the room, sharp and jarring like a pane of glass shattering. Her father's fury was immediate and fierce. "What is this supposed to mean?" he barked, his voice unsteady with rage. "Is this some kind of twisted joke?" I faced him, keeping my tone measured. "This isn't a joke," I said. "That's just a still from the video you're about to watch." The photo had only been a teaser. What followed had been thoroughly prepared. Davey moved to the controls and started the video. It filled the screen, Cathys and Roger again, their voices unmistakable. Her words echoed in the room. "I'm only staying with him for the money." Those words struck hard, but I had long since stopped feeling their sting. I had lived with them, replayed them in my head until they lost their power. The silence that followed was suffocating. The guests stared at me, but I stood unmoved. From the far side of the room, a man in a dark suit stepped forward. His demeanor was calm, almost clinical. Without a glance at Cathys, he approached her with quiet intent. In his hand was a manila envelope. "Mrs. Miller," he said evenly, "you've been served." Cathys froze. Her fingers reached instinctively for the envelope, but she didn't open it. Her eyes darted between me and the stranger, her expression caught between confusion and fury. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. The man moved past her without pause, heading toward Roger, who stood pale and speechless. "Mr. Smith," he said, handing over a second envelope. "You've been served." Roger accepted it with trembling hands. He looked at Cathys, lost for words, as if some explanation could still save him. Before he could speak, the man turned once more, walking across the stunned crowd. This time he stopped in front of Mr. Thompson, the company's CEO. The tension in the room spiked as the man handed over the final envelope. "Mr. Thompson," he said plainly, "you've been served." The CEO, a man I once admired, took the envelope with a furrowed brow. "What is this?" he asked, voice thin and wary. The man gave no reply. He turned and walked out the same way he'd entered, silent and precise. I turned toward Thompson, holding his gaze. "That," I said carefully, "is a lawsuit. You're being held accountable. While your employees were supposed to be working, they were breaking the very code of ethics you're sworn to uphold." The silence that followed was absolute. No one dared move. No one knew what to say. The room, once filled with laughter and light, now held only the weight of truth. Thompson's face twisted, equal parts confusion and rage, but I held my ground. He had been complicit in this betrayal, and I had no intention of letting him escape accountability. My gaze shifted to Roger, the man who hadn't just violated my trust, but demolished my marriage. "Mr. Smith, consider yourself officially served for alienation of affection and the role you played in ending my marriage." The statement hung between us, sharp and unyielding, cutting through the silence like a knife through glass. Then I turned to Cathys. My chest tightened, but I didn't waver. The deepest wound came from her. She had made the conscious decision to destroy what we had spent over 20 years building together. And you, Cathys, you've been served with divorce papers. Her face went pale, lips trembling, stunned into silence. But I wasn't done, not yet. She needed the truth, unvarnished and direct. We've been married for 24 years and 6 months. I haven't forgotten. Every day is still etched in my mind. I paused briefly, letting the air thicken with meaning before delivering what needed to be said. But the truth is, our marriage ended the moment you decided to sleep with him. It hurt to speak those words aloud, but I wouldn't soften the reality. Our investigation confirms it began 6 months ago. Her expression shifted, a collision of guilt and indignation, but I didn't move. She had made her choices. Now I was making mine. I don't need your explanations, I said flatly. I'm not interested. Just leave. Get out of my house. Something clicked inside me at that moment, as if a final lock had turned. That part of my life was over. The days that followed were steeped in tension, a fog of unanswered questions and emotional exhaustion. But the storm didn't pass quietly. Cathys' parents came at me like a tidal wave, persistent, emotional, desperate. "Ben, she's battling something inside," her mother begged, voice strained with urgency and tears. "You two have weathered so much together. This isn't the end. You can fix it." Her father, more direct than usual, confronted me with blunt words. 24 years, Ben. You're really going to walk away from all of it? Think about what you're giving up." They spoke of the life we had shared, the memories we'd created, but I had already made peace with my decision. The betrayal had carved wounds too deep to ignore. There was no path back. Their arguments didn't touch me. I didn't want pity. I didn't want lectures. Cathys had been given every opportunity to come clean. Instead, she chose deceit. That was her burden to carry. Still, she clung to flimsy justifications, even when the truth was beyond dispute. At the court hearing, she unveiled a new defense. Her voice trembled, and tears welled up in her eyes as she turned toward me. "Ben, I've been suffering from a hormone imbalance. That's why things changed. I needed more than you could offer." I stared, stunned. This was the angle she was going with? I glanced at Butch, my attorney, and the disbelief on his face echoed my own. He stood, voice crisp and authoritative. "Miss Miller, you never once disclosed any hormone-related condition to my client. And there is no medical documentation, no records, no test results that support your claim." Cathys stiffened, her gaze falling away, caught completely off guard. The judge, who had been silent up to that point, leaned forward. His tone was firm, his expression solemn. "Miss Miller, if this condition truly affected your relationship, why wasn't your husband informed? Why didn't you pursue treatment or even mention it?" She had no answer, just silence. The judge didn't hesitate. "If your claim is genuine, communication was critical. But with no evidence and no prior discussion, the court sees no basis for reconciliation." His words sealed our fate. I had anticipated this outcome. My case was clear. There was nothing left to save. After nearly 7 exhausting months in court, the judge made it official. The divorce was granted. But the pain didn't end with the decree. Jack and Emily, our children, were left to sift through the emotional wreckage. They never explicitly took sides, but their silence spoke volumes. They were angry at their mother for what she had done. They were angry at me for how I'd responded, and I couldn't blame them. I had torn down the facade they called home. I had exposed everything. Even if I believed I'd done what was right, I had hurt them in the process. They pulled away from both of us. Conversations stopped. Messages went unanswered. It was how they chose to survive, and I respected that. I let them have their space, even though the absence hollowed me out. The uncertainty of where I stood with my kids weighed on me like a stone, but I had made my choice. Now, I had to live with the cost. The financial fallout was another blow. The settlement divided everything I had built in half. Years of effort, late nights, sacrifices, reduced to signatures on a page. All I had worked for, all I had earned, split cleanly down the center. Watching the life I'd painstakingly built unravel was brutal, but oddly, I never felt remorse. Cathys walked away with her share, no doubt, but the essentials, my self-respect, my sense of who I was, remained intact. I never let go of those. As for Roger, he wasn't exactly thriving. He was trapped in his own personal war, trying to claw his way out of a dying marriage. I knew his wife had brought Butch on as her lawyer. That alone spelled disaster. Butch had helped drive a wedge through my own relationship, and now he was laying waste to someone else's. It felt like poetic justice, playing out in its own time. The CEO, meanwhile, just wanted the controversy to vanish. The scandal had started to seep into the company's public image, and that kind of damage wasn't something he could tolerate. Soon enough, I received a subtle but clear invitation to a quiet, off-the-record meeting. The offer was clear-cut. $1 million in exchange for silence. No more lawsuits, no more noise. They wanted closure, a clean break, and I was the one holding the key. My divorce from Cathys had already been finalized, and I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I'd made my peace with the past. If accepting that money meant ending the chaos and laying down the first stone of a new foundation, then I was ready to take it. So I let the case go. That million still sits in my account, a tangible reminder of the day I chose peace over battle. Now, 3 years later, I find myself on the porch of a modest farmhouse, watching the sun ease into the horizon, turning the sky into a watercolor of soft colors you only find this far out. The air carries a crisp, clean bite. Life out here moves slower, and that stillness is exactly what I didn't know I was longing for. My German shepherds, Max and Duke, rarely leave my side. They're always watchful, always nearby, as if they're standing guard against whatever storm might try to touch me again. They're more than pets. They're my family now, a steady presence that reminds me I'm never truly alone. The farm itself isn't anything grand, but it's mine. That makes all the difference. Over the past year, I've immersed myself in the work, feeding the chickens, fixing the fences, working the soil. The repetition, the connection to the land. It's grounded me in a way nothing else ever did. It's not the world I came from, but it's exactly the one I belong in now. There's a rhythm to this place. The steady turn of the seasons, the familiar routines of daily chores, the unhurried drift of time. I've stopped rushing. Out here, time breathes differently, and I've learned to breathe with it. The biggest surprise of all? Jack and Emily, my kids, have started coming around again. The same two I was once certain I'd lost. It's still a little awkward sometimes, but I can feel the gap between us closing bit by bit. They've changed, gone through their own storms, but when they visit, it feels like something long broken is beginning to mend. We talk about simple things, farm life, everyday moments, and those conversations don't carry the weight they used to. I'm not trying to rewrite history. I just want to be here now, when they reach out. As for Cathys, last I heard she was living with her parents, working through things in therapy. I never expected her to come out of this unscathed. She's dealing with her own collapse, and somehow, despite it all, I feel a flicker of empathy for her. I've stopped painting her as the villain in my story. That chapter's closed. I remember what happened, but the anger's gone. This quiet life has taught me something invaluable. Clinging to bitterness is just another way to stay shackled to the past, and I'm done living there. I've moved forward. For the first time in what feels like forever, I know peace. I wake to the songs of birds, the whisper of wind in the trees, and the distant bark of my dogs chasing something unseen through the field. Out here I've found enough. More than enough. Our story comes to an end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this story, please check out other videos on this channel. See you soon, my dear friend.